Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video game review. This time we're taking a look at Star Wars Battlefront for the PS4. Star Wars Battlefront is a new sequel or more like a reboot by the company of DICE, the creators of the Battlefield franchise. They decided to make their own take of the Battlefront franchise, which was a big financial success back then with the first and second game. But how does this game compare to those original classic games? Well, this Battlefront game works in similar ways to the very classic ones, in which you basically consist of fighting the Empire against the rebel soldiers, usually in different types of modes that mostly depend on one side overtaking the other. But how do these modes work is very completely different to the original Battlefront games. Another very important thing is that this game does not have any campaign or story mode. It's completely a multiplayer recommended experience, mostly online play, although there are some modes that you can actually play with just computer bots. But the real core of the game is really playing online with others, particularly friends that you know, and join in on the war of the game. Another one of the big new things about the game is the ability to customize your character. In the previous game you would select from different classes of soldiers. Here instead you can actually select the look of your soldier, you can select his reactions and emotions like you're seeing here right now, which is nothing really game changing for gameplay but it's still there. You have special cards that give you special weapons like grenades and special guns that recharge through time, and there's also the ability to choose whichever weapon you want that fits more your style between rifles, more automatic rifles, more blaster rifles, sniping, and other more. Each of these new weapons and looks that you can give your character, or even the star cards, can be unlockable as you rank up your soldier. So it basically works like a level system. You go from rank 1 to 50. Once you reach 50, you'll get some of the most ultimate unlocks. Like for example, for the rebels, one of the very last unlocks once you reach rank 50 is becoming a Twilight rebel. In terms of customization, it's pretty neat, but at the same time it feels like it should have had a bit more options. Probably along the way they will keep adding more stuff, but I'm hoping it doesn't become a lot of stuff to buy in the future, because I still think it lacks a bit more variety in the customization part. There's not really enough to distinguish players, particularly on the weapons. A lot of the weapons can feel very similar from one another. So let's talk more about the different multiplayer game modes available. So Battlefront does not have a campaign or story, but it definitely has a lot of gameplay modes to keep you interested and making sure you have a different experience every time you play. You have, for example, a mode that's only using spaceships to create some sort of space battles, but not exactly space battles like in Battlefront 2, which had the large scope of going inside the ships and taking them over, but at least you're battling with ships on the airspace, which is still kinda nice. In this part there's power-ups around the map, including a hero pickup of sorts. Here, since it's on the air, the real heroes are the Millennium Falcon and the Slave One. Still, the flying and such works pretty well, it moves pretty well, but at the same time it feels a bit basic controls wise. It just basically consists of just flying and targeting your enemies and then just twisting around to avoid them, but it doesn't offer enough mechanics to really define a really special experience of driving these ships. Still, it does what it does great. But the more popular modes that people play the most is Walker Assault, which consists of the rebels trying to take down the AT-ATs by calling in some radio signals that will call in Y-Wings that will deactivate the shields of the AT-ATs, so then all the rebels can attack. So the Empire soldiers have to make sure the rebels do not activate this. But something that's pretty cool about this mode is that if you're flying on a ship or having a very good weapon and good aiming, you can actually take down the Y-Wings and make them fail. Of course, this is actually more hard than what it sounds, but it's still a pretty cool thing to do in the game. And in this game there's different kinds of power-ups. This includes the heroes pickups that you can find. You can use other vehicles, you can take control of the AT-AT for example for a few minutes. You can take over an AT-ST for as long as you survive. And there's different power pickups like turrets that take down vehicles, turrets that simply work on their own, special rocket launchers, special grenades, or calling in an orbital strike, which can be very powerful. But at the same time, most of the weapons that are very cool usually require you to find them, which are not that hard to find, but sometimes it can be, especially if you're not very good at the game. As you start off, you're gonna get killed a lot by other players that usually have better star cards than you because they have special weapons already in their cards that they can trigger, or they have the fancy jetpacks and such. These things I mentioned are some of the unlockables you can put as part of your weapons in your customization of your character. While this mode is actually pretty fun, it's not very friendly for those that are still very new to the game. The other big popular mode of 40 players is a similar take to Conquest from the original Battlefront games, this time called Supremacy, but takes a little bit of the same gameplay of taking over a post and defending it from the other team taking it. But again, these type of modes require you to have really good experience on the game by them, as the competition can be very strong with over 40 players with different weapons and customizations, and ultimately there always going to be someone that's going to have better weapons no matter what. But the biggest problem I really have with this game is the fact that these big large modes, we only have around 4 maps to play these big modes on. We have Endor, Solust, Tatooine, and Hoth. That's a total of only 4 maps for these modes in particular. And all the other modes have the same planets as maps. The sections vary, the maps are different, but they're still the very same planets. Nothing really changes in that regard, which is a real shame because the original Battlefront games had prequel wars, which was clones versus droids, and that included a lot of planets from the prequels, while at the same time having Rebels versus Empire, having a lot of planets from the more classic trilogy. So it's really a bit kinda hurtful to the game how it really lacks content in that regard of maps and variety of different soldier classes you can have. I don't doubt that in the future we might see a prequels being included up as part of this game, but I'm really hoping it's done right, and again they don't keep making the players have to spend more money when they already spend $60 for the content they're having right now here. There's a lot of more modes on the game, but one of the last ones I really want to highlight is a hero battle mode where you can get to play as any of the 6 heroes depending on the team that you're chosen to be. You take turns with players. Sometimes it will be a soldier that needs to take down the heroes or villains depending on what team you're on, while other times you will be the hero or villain. Basically, it's 3 heroes versus 3 villains, and others become soldiers to help on this battle, which can be pretty epic and pretty cool, and definitely a great way for you to try out the heroes and villains in case you never get to grab that pickup during the more bigger modes of 40 players. That being said, at the same time, you only have a total of 6 heroes and villains characters, which again, I'm sorry to say, Battlefront 2 had a lot more. Granted, at the same time we have to remember this is a brand new Battlefront game. We have to leave behind what happened. This is not the same team. They're trying something different, something new, and the graphics look absolutely amazing and stunning, and the recreations of the big wars of Star Wars are there. But overall, the big problem about this particular game is the content. It really feels very lacking in content. Considering the price of $60, it could really have way more content than what is being offered. But we'll see what happens. We're getting a Jakku DLC free, which will provide a bit more content, which is actually very nice, although it should have been already in the game, but what can you do? Still, if you really wanna play and have a lot of fun with your friends online, this is a really great experience, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. There's definitely a lot to enjoy here. The gameplay is great, the graphics are great, everything works really well, and it's really fun to play online with your friends or with just strangers and living all your Star Wars dreams. But in the end, they just need to work on the content. It lacks content. We give Star Wars Battlefront an 8 out of 10.